Danite Radio.
Welcome to the Counter Revolution.
What are we doing? We testing or just going for it?
We're going.
Oh,
Here we are.
well done, folks.
Welcome back.
Welcome
I'm
back.
Shadow.
I'm Rocky.
And I'm Jace.
And we're here.
Yep, we're it's dark times. We're frustrated. We're gonna have another dark podcast, I think, but
We'll try to avoid screaming.
we're
in
gonna
this
start it off with a lighthearted Shadow plays baseball story.
one. Oh, I guess you're throwing me under the bus on that one. If you are a longtime listener to the podcast, you will have heard some of my other.
The sound's still on. We're echoing.
It does seem echoey in the headphones as well.
Oh, it's off now.
Wow. Okay.
That solved the problem.
We're not restarting this
Hopefully
time.
nobody leaves before we get that figured out.
If you're a longtime listener, you know my baseball career is not that impressive. Unless you're into humorous stories.
Shadow's super athletic. He just lacks the focus for baseball.
Yeah,
Baseball
this is
takes
true.
a lot more focus than most sports.
Especially as a little kid. To be fair, it was especially as a little kid.
Really, the downtime is what the problem is there.
But for our newer listeners, to fill you in a little bit, I hit a baseball coach with a baseball bat in the head because I wasn't paying attention when he was walking behind me.
And tied himself to a dugout with his pants string.
That's Rocky's favorite story because my turn to bat came up and, oh, where's Shadow? Oh, he's tied to the fence. He can't bat. So I had a baseball coach before this one, before Little League, in Coach Pitch, who he's a good dude and a really, really phenomenal coach, especially for little kids. But as is the way of the Bishop family, we can be irritating when most kids are not. And he paired us off to play catch, and I was the odd man out, and I got paired off to play catch with him. And he was yelling at another kid, and I was off in La La Land, as I do. And so I went ahead and just threw the ball to him. And like Rocky said, I'm pretty athletic, but a space case, so I could throw really hard for an 8-year-old. And I pitched the ball into his stomach. And then he turned and looked at me, and he threw the ball into my stomach. Because in his mind, that was appropriate payback for a 10-year-old who was disrespecting him with my ball throwing skills.
And if that story's not funny enough to you, this is a large man. 6'3", 240 probably, muscle. He was not a small guy pelting my brother with a baseball.
And I doubled over, and he said, "You pay attention when you throw me the ball." And he didn't even feel bad about hitting me with that baseball.
Bet you never surprised anyone with a baseball again.
Oh, no, sir.
Lesson learned.
No, I didn't learn because after that I hit my coach with a bat.
Oh, that was after? Yeah. Dang, bro.
Man.
All right. There's our lighthearted anecdote for y'all.
Sweet.
We're waiting. We're waiting on
Looking
Rocky.
in anticipation. So, I'm struggling with both righties and lefties. Right-wingers and liberals both do this. And it's bringing out their token black voice. Like it's like their opinion weighs more in this situation.
Explain token
than a-
black voice.
Than a white person's
Oh, okay.
Voice in this situation. And to say that I have the same experiences as every black person on the planet is a falsehood. But to say that I don't have some of the same experiences as a black person as some black people on this planet is also a falsehood. To say that I don't have.
And at the same time, to say every black person is having the same experience, equally a falsehood.
Equally as false. So, I like to listen to voices because they ring true. They follow a logical path. I've been listening to a lot of Candace Owens, one of the token blacks for the
right.
One of the token black people for the right. And she's brilliant. She is brilliant. And everyone should listen to Candace Owens, not because she's a black saying the things she's saying, because she's a terrifyingly intelligent person saying the things that she's saying.
And you don't have to agree with her to listen to her. She is frighteningly smart, and her logic is impeccable.
Mm-hmm. And so this always comes up when you quote Martin Luther King. No, white people can't quote Martin Luther King because the most egregious one is white people killed Martin Luther King, so they can't quote him, which is super irritating because it's like, I am no more responsible for the death of Martin Luther King than, say, any given black person this day and age is responsible for the death of Malcolm X. Who was
How dare you
killed by
a white man bring Malcolm X into this conversation?
Killed by a black man.
It's his white privilege talking.
From the NOI. So, I hate that we bring forth, in these times, especially conservatives, I hate the way they bring forth their black voice. And just to show you that I don't only listen to conservative black voices, which it doesn't matter what color they are in my eyes, but Killer Mike I hardly agree with him ever. But at least he brings logic.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah, he brings logic to what he says. He has sound arguments for everything that he says. He never ends a conversation with, you're ignorant. You're just ignorant, or you're just racist. I'm sorry. If that is what you're saying to me, you are trying to win the argument. You're not trying to find the truth. You're not trying to educate yourself. You are trying to win an argument against me. There is zero evidence of my racism. I've never hurt anyone because of the color of their skin. I've never done any such thing to be racist. And this day and age, even if you trying to think how to put this. This day and age, I honestly feel like, and this could bring up a debate between the three of us maybe, but you can give the benefit of the doubt to 96, and that's being conservative, 96% of the population isn't racist. That they are willing, at least in this country, I'm not speaking for other countries, but in this country, I honestly think you can give 96% of people the benefit of the
for
doubt.
you.
Yeah, that they're not racist.
Because of the great disparity between like how racist you can be, I think it's really hard to put that number on it. Because like, I think you're right. There, at least 99% of people won't kill somebody because of their color. But like, it could come down to something as simple as you won't pick. This is a dumb example, but you won't pick the white guy to be on your team for basketball because black people are better at basketball. Would that qualify, or where are you defining this?
Is that racist, or is your black friend actually better at basketball?
What if you didn't know him?
What's
if you didn't know either one of them?
Definition of racism to you? I don't.
I'm not saying you're wrong or anything. I just want to qualify.
No,
so we can
this
get
is
on
the
that.
conversation I was hoping would come up. So, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? I've never seen personally a black person held down in their job because they were black. And I've never seen personally violence against a black person because they were black or any other race. I've seen some things that don't make sense that could fall in that category. But knowing the people that I've worked for, I just can't picture it being racist. It didn't make sense to me, and it definitely didn't make sense to the Hispanic fellas that I was working with.
Yeah, same experience
The
here.
incidents that I'm thinking of, but at the same time, there was the guy who had gotten promoted over the Hispanic fella had some leverage that I don't think that anyone knew about except for maybe me. I had heard rumors about it. So a lot of times failure to negotiate, it's the water.
Shut off as soon as I pulled my headphones off.
The failure to negotiate, to being a good negotiator, looks like racism. And Adam Carolla makes this point, and he's a white man, a white conservative, so he can't speak to this.
Yeah.
Which is, again, you're just trying to win the argument. You're not winning the argument, but you think you are, because you're discrediting the person rather than discrediting their ideas. But
it's actually a logical fallacy to do that.
Yeah.
To discredit the arguer for the sake of winning the argument.
It's very rampant these days. But he says, look, I've had neighbors who have just been jerks for no reason. I don't know what I did. They were just jerks. And I could see, being a black man, being taught my whole life that most people in this country are racist, thinking, oh, it's because I'm black. That's why he's doing it. But unfortunately for me, I don't have that luxury as a white man, so I just have to assume, oh, some people are just jerks.
And potentially some people just don't like me.
And so I don't let them hold me down. I move past it. But when we tell black people that all white people are racist and they're doing this because you're black, you don't give them that ability to get past that incident. And having had more interactions with police officers than I think Adam Carolla has, there have been incidents where I would think, oh, it's because I'm black that this cop stopped here behind the bowling alley while I'm just hanging out with my friends. Behind the bowling alley that I work at, while I'm just hanging out with my friends, he just stopped here, told me to pull my hands out of my pockets and asked me where I got my soda from because the gas station down the road had just been robbed. If I was a black man, I would assume it was because that cop was racist. But where I was white, I just had to assume A, the cop was a dick or a jerk, and B, the gas station down the road had just got robbed, and someone matching my description did it, holding a 44-ounce drink. So I get to give that cop the benefit of the doubt. I don't have to yell and scream at the cop for being racist. I don't fight him in his attempt to acquire justice. And therefore, I don't get the living crap kicked out of me at best and killed at worst, because that cop's not out to get me. He's out to do his job. And we can talk about the cop doing his job, because I think that most of what the cops do is over policing. I think that, however, if they are investigating a robbery, that is what a cop is supposed to be doing.
Sure.
And that's all he did. He investigated the robbery, discovered that this lead was a dead end, and moved on. If I had been freaking out because I thought this guy was racist and yelling at him and acting agitated, he would have assumed more about me. He would have assumed, oh, this guy had to have done it. Look at the way he's acting. Which would have ended in a confrontation, a physical altercation, and me getting beat up by at least him, maybe, and probably 2 or 3 of his buddies. So how is that experience, me being talked to by that cop? And that's not the only time that's happened to me. You know, people are like, oh, have you ever been followed through the grocery store or through the store as a white man because people are scared you're going to steal? Yeah, I have. And guess what? Sometimes I was stealing. Like,
They just weren't very good at
I
catching
had
it.
saggy pants. I looked like a little wannabe gangster.
And stereotypically, he was shoplifting.
So yeah, I do know how that feels, and it doesn't feel great. All right, and you know that's bad if that's happened to someone that's not shoplifting, that's never shoplifted in their life. That's bad. George Floyd was not that man. George Floyd had been to prison 3 times. George Floyd was accused of using fake money at a gas station. George Floyd was a criminal. He fit the description. He fit the profile of a criminal, not because he's black, but I'm sure he was dressed like a gangster, and he was high. So, racism or cop doing their job?
All of which doesn't justify him being
No.
killed. Just
No.
sharing that out there.
Yeah,
But
the cop that killed him was a POS. I'm glad. I hope he goes to prison. I don't think he will. I think the unions will get him off. Wake up, Black Lives Matter. The man who's paying for your cause is also paying the policeman's union to get these jackboots back onto the streets. Trust me, your movement has been hijacked. Definition of racism, please.
The top definition of racism describes it as a noun: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on belief that one's own race is superior.
so my example would be opposite of racism, technically.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Does it
it's
imply
just
negative?
You're implying that your race, if you were white and they were black, and you picked them because they were black,
You'd be implying that your race is inferior. instead
yeah.
of
So
superior.
in a way, it's still racist, but still a dumb example.
No, but it brings up, that's the whole thing, though. So, the kid.
Sorry, real quick. Merriam-Webster has a different definition. The definition is a belief that a race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race.
Sure.
So the Google one was wrong.
So, I've got a perfect example. In 1880, Dr. Downs was the first person to diagnose Down syndrome. And he had diagnosed it in a medical journal as Mongolism because, and I quote, people who have Down syndrome resemble the Mongol people. And therefore, the Mongol people being inferior to the white man. This is not me saying this is Dr. Downs. The Mongol people being inferior to the white man, he can only conclude that they are genetically, that people with this disease he called Mongolism have genetically regressed to become more like the Mongol people. That is racism because he is saying those people are inferior to his people based entirely on their race. He doesn't know anything more about them. It's based entirely on their race, and he is concluding things in a medical journal because of that. We discovered that, granted, 100 years later, and realized, oh, that's super freaking racist, and did away with it. Named the disease Down syndrome and moved past it. But that's an example of actual racism.
Yeah. Excellent example. Shout out. Also, what... So, first of all, being better at basketball does not make you superior to me.
No, it just
Right? No,
Yeah.
So, but I just want to explore this. I'm
Okay.
not questioning.
It does make you superior at basketball, though.
Sure. But as a person, it doesn't make you superior to me.
No.
I don't feel...
unless that's the only qualifying factor to
So-
personhood.
I need to work on my.
However, here's the thing. Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason, right?
For the most part.
What percentage of the NBA is black?
I'll Google this so we get a real number.
So I'm a dumb white kid from Utah. Let's say
75%.
75%. Let's say I'm a dumb white kid from Utah, which I am. I'm about let's see, 14. No, I'm 15. I show up to a basketball court, and my experiences with black people are this. One, 75% of the NBA is black. And the only other black person I know up to this point in my life was a black kid on my on my football team in 7th or 8th grade. And he was by far the most athletic person on that team.
Yeah.
Easy. Even there were kids that were twice his size that he made look like chumps in everything that he did. And I'm talking twice his size in muscle. Not big kids, muscle-bound kids, twice his size that he chumped physically, not just athletically. So,
And to that end, another statistic, 70% of the NFL is black as well.
oh, okay.
Just adding to your...
And it's only lower because white people tend to be big and are good at standing in one place.
So
Now
I
that's
show up
racism.
to a basketball court. I get to choose the teams. There's a black kid at a basketball court, and I choose him first. Should that kid be offended because I assume that he's probably better than everyone there? Should he be offended by that?
By today's definitions, yes.
Yeah, but should he, though?
No,
Should
absolutely
he
not.
let that limit his life?
No, in no form, and in no way that you spin it. It should be.
And I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to. I just don't. And so maybe I could see being offended if I went to a library and there was a black kid in there and I said, "Hey, I'm playing basketball. I need someone on my team. Do you want to go?" Maybe that's different. At least
Still.
the kid on the basketball court is on the basketball court, you know? Like, it's pretty safe to assume at that point that he's better than everyone that's going to show up, right?
But still, let's explore that a little farther. If you walk into a library because you need a fifth player for your team so you can play 5-on-5, and you see a white kid sitting at a table and a black kid sitting at a table, you're probably still going to walk up to the black kid and say, "Will you play?"
Maybe.
Have you seen the white kids that hang out at libraries? They aren't playing basketball.
Dude, maybe. But let's say the kid in the white kid at the library has an Air Jordan shirt on, and the black kid has glasses and a plaid shirt.
And rainbow suspenders.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's all qualifying factors.
Maybe
you know?
I'd look beyond, you know?
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. It's all qualifying factors. Why is there zero nuance in race talk in this country?
Yeah.
I'm
It's
gonna
not
throw
a
this out
black
here.
and white subject.
Yeah. Oddly enough, it's not a black and white subject.
If it was me and I walked up to those people, I would, even if the white kid was very clearly dressed for basketball, I would still probably say, do either of you two play basketball? And I still would qualify and hope that the black kid played basketball.
Sure. And nowadays, just asking the black kid in the library if he plays basketball could be construed as racist.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Just because I'm black, I play? Well, no. I mean, I was asking both of you, but you know.
Sure.
And that is what we've dissolved to.
Yeah.
That's what we've dissolved into.
That's definitely the point we're at.
Which is not the dream that the man I'm not allowed to quote had.
That's MLK, by
Yeah.
the way.
That's not the dream he had. His dream was not that Candace Owens' voice is stronger on this subject because she's black. His dream was Candace Owens' voice is stronger on this subject because she's intelligent as heck. His dream was not Killer Mike's voice is stronger on this subject because he's black.
Yeah.
His dream was his voice makes more sense.
I'm not sure how
Therefore.
you could go through and learn about MLK, and even just in the public school information that they give you, I don't see where you could grab that designation that he wanted the black voice to be the voice.
Yeah.
Well,
He wanted everybody to be equal. Like, that was his thing, is
That-
equality.
That's straight out of the I Have a Dream speech that every child has to learn in public school. That's the thing they teach about Martin Luther King. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Yeah.
That's right out of his most famous quote.
And why do we quote Martin Luther King on this?
Because we believe in what he stood for.
Yeah. He's the greatest orator of his generation and arguably the greatest orator in history. Have you ever listened to a speech and not gotten goosebumps
chills?
from
Oh, for sure.
what
At
he
least one
says?
part.
For sure.
That the speech that ends with the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. That will knock you off your feet. And guess what? The first time I heard it, I had it on YouTube, but I was doing something else. I wasn't watching him. I couldn't even see the color of his skin. I just heard his voice.
And
The man was
I
a
would say the same about Malcolm X. Have you ever
powerful
listened to
orator.
Malcolm
I
X
haven't.
talk?
Maybe I should.
Oh my gosh.
He's
dude.
a powerful speaker.
He's powerful. He's brilliant. He's well reasoned. He thinks things through, and when he talks, people listen. There's a reason Malcolm X was so popular, and there's a reason that the Nation of Islam found him so dangerous.
And proof that I don't just think that they're good orators because they're black. Barack Obama, I think, is one of the worst orators on the planet. I don't see how he's any better than Trump. Nothing
Biden.
inspiring about that man.
Biden's got him beat.
Oh my gosh, dude! I'm like, but he's so well spoken. Like, first of all, Joe Biden. That was racist of you to say it like that. But second of all, no, he's not. Have you heard Martin Luther King speak? This guy sucks. This guy sucks at speaking. But he's saying the right things.
A problem of racism that seems to be missed is I think we kind of talked about this earlier, is like the qualifying factors. So like, because Barack Obama was black, they're saying all these things like he was the greatest president ever, he did all these things, he's a great speaker, whatever. But they always qualify because something about him being the first black president, the first whatever, because he's black, and all these sorts of things. And it really discredits anything he did or any of his like character traits, because it's all, they try to tie it.
When you qualify him as black, it disqualifies his character traits because you're again focused on his color.
It seems to me as if it doesn't matter what he did, it's he did something and he was black while he did it. That's why it was important.
It doesn't matter
ridiculous.
what side of the aisle you line up on.
Yeah.
If you are qualifying everything that he did with him.
And it even goes in a weird way to where, like, if somebody that disagrees with him, whether it's a conservative or a liberal, if they disagree with him, there's always somebody that'll say something like, oh, you're disagreeing because of your white privilege or your racism, and you're trying to keep the black man down, something along those lines. And just, I don't understand how that thought process works, why that's the direction
I do.
people take.
It's racism. Straight up. He's got to be
No,
better because
but
he's
you're
the
the
first
racist
black
'cause you're
president.
white.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. And that's the argument winner for them. And I can say this thing. I can say this. And there are modern day black people who inspire me. And I don't always agree with their opinion. Killer Mike gives great speeches, dude. Like he's sent chills down my spine. And Killer Mike raps in ways that inspires the crap out of me. And I don't know where he falls on the communist revolution. I think he might be a communist, but I don't know. But I know for a fact that Immortal Technique is a communist revolutionary.
Yeah.
And he inspires me. So we have to separate oration from belief as well. You know, there are great orators who I listen to, and I'm like, ooh, don't agree with that, but
Good job.
Powerfully said.
yeah, and I'm a firm believer that Immortal Technique will be his songs will be the anthem for both the revolution and the counter-revolution, because that guy can pump anyone up, dude.
Yeah.
For reals. And you can go listen to him. Listener beware, he's profane as heck, but he is an inspiring character.
He can put some words together.
And guess what? He's a black man. He inspires the crap out of me with, I don't know.
With communist lyrics.
Yeah, with communist. But the way he can spin words and the way he can use logic to argue for his things. And so if I were to say, you know what, you know who'd be a great president? Candace Owens. She would. 100%, dude. She'd be dope.
She would kill it, dude.
A black woman president. She'd be dope. I would vote for her so fast. So fast.
She's not old enough, is
But
she?
that makes me racist in two ways. I don't know. She's got to be getting close. 36?
35 is the age, so.
Oh. So, But that makes me racist. A, because Candace Owens is a... How do they discredit black people who they disagree with?
Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom. That's proof right there. They use it against their own people.
Yeah.
I'm racist and she's an Uncle Tom. How is she an Uncle Tom?
Because she doesn't follow the
In what
the
way? 31 years, 4 years. Run for it. There.
Next election cycle,
Girly.
2024.
Candace Owens 2024.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
I'm sure somebody said that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on some weird little podcast like this.
For sure.
We had 80 views last time, sir.
Breaking records.
85. We're breaking records.
We do appreciate that, listeners. We'll see how we do this time. But look, if you are on the side of ending arguments in, well, you're just racist, or you're just an Uncle Tom, or you only like black people who agree with you, or anytime you end an argument where you're not arguing against the arguments, but you're arguing against the person, you are part of the problem.
And that is a logical fallacy.
You are the sucker for the revolution. They are using you, and as soon as they get into power, guess who's going to gulag? Right next to me. You are. And guess what? Most of you will still be like, oh, it's just a mistake. I fought for this revolution. They'll get me out anytime. And guess what? You'll spend the same 10 to 25 year sentence as I do. And what, you are, the movement's been hijacked. Proof of that is David Dorn.
Let's talk about David Dorn.
73-year-old, retired policeman, security guard, black man, defending his friend's pawn shop from being looted, shot in the heart by your movement.
Now,
and you can say, that's not my movement. You're wrong. The riots came on the back of your protests, and you haven't denounced them. You just yell at me for hypocrisy because white people riot sometimes too. That's another argument winner. Hypocrisy. Guess what? Everyone on the planet is a hypocrite. It doesn't make me wrong in what I say. It doesn't make me wrong in what I have to say. Maybe I'll have to answer to Jesus one day for it, but that has nothing to do with you.
And he's a
or the truth.
He's a forgiving
He's
kind
a
of
very
guy.
forgiving fella from what I hear and read.
Indeed.
So a little update on David Dorn real quick. Is his alleged murderer has been arrested and has been charged with 3 different counts. They have video evidence of him standing on a corner with puffs of smoke around him at the time the shots were fired. So it seems as if he is the person that did it.
What can you tell us about his murderer?
He is a 24-year-old black man named Stephen Cannon. He was driving... So surveillance video showed Cannon exiting the store and walking towards Pontiac G6 just before Dorn arrived. And Cannon was seen approaching the corner store with a gun in his hand. So,
All right, folks. I know that's not proof. He still has to stand witness, but if he allegedly did it, hero to the revolution, some would say. Is he going to... Are movie stars going to bail him out of jail too, like they have been all the other rioters? This is your movement, folks. Your movement is killing black people. Your civil rights movement that is going to rescue you from victimhood is killing black people. And he's not the only black person that's died in this. Granted, a lot of them have been cops, and I know they're Uncle Toms, but it doesn't matter. Do Black Lives matter or not? Do Black Lives matter no matter what choice they make or not?
No matter which side.
Because you guys sure seem to jump on the side of every criminal that gets beat up by a cop. But the second a black cop gets killed, or a black security guard who has black grandchildren gets killed, it doesn't matter. That's not part of the movement for some reason. His black life doesn't matter, I guess. Well, I say his black life does matter.
and it's not because he's black.
Yeah. Definitely not because he's black. Because he was somebody's grandpa. Because he was somebody's dad.
Because he's a human.
Because he's a human.
And if you need further convincing, go on YouTube, type in David Dorn, and You can watch a 2-minute video of him dying on the sidewalk while a young teenager whose face you don't see says, "Stay with me, OG, don't die," and freaks out on camera. He absolutely has a meltdown on camera because he can't fathom why this man is dying in the street for this movement. He is dying doing his job, and he's not even dying for what he believes. He is just dying for doing his job, for showing up and doing his job, and he got shot to death for it.
Yeah, and what about that black kid that had to watch that man die? What about his life? Does it matter? What about his psychological stability? Does it matter? I got to give props to the kid because he confronted the gunman. He was yelling at him. "Why'd you do that, bro? That's someone's grandpa. Why'd you do that?"
Is that worth a TV for you? Is that worth what you stole?
That takes guts to confront a man.
You know that guy still has a gun.
Yeah, who
not
just
gonna
shot
drop
a
it.
man, who just shot a 73-year-old man, you know?
Man.
This guy's, that takes courage. Well done, sir. But what about him? Does his life matter?
Because he has to live with those images
And
in
it
his
is
brain for the rest of his life.
Your movement that killed that man. It is your movement that damaged that kid psychologically. And you can say that's not my movement, but you're wrong. Because every time I say that the riots are bad, you throw in my face that, oh, white people riot too. And you say things, every time I bring up Martin Luther King, you say things like, rioting is just the voice of the unheard. Okay. That proves nothing to me. That proves to me that you are on board with the murder of that black man. And therefore, you're a part of a communist revolution, not a civil rights movement.
Rioting is the voice of the unheard who don't know what they need to say. If you have an idea what needs to be said, there's a time and a place for rioting. We talked about it last week. There is a time and a place. But if you're just rioting because you're mad, you have no idea what you're standing for. You have no idea what your movement is about. Does police reform need to happen? Are there specific action items that have been presented that need to happen? Or that should potentially happen? Absolutely. Police reform needs to happen. That is an important thing. But like we already said, the policemen's union is being funded by the exact same people who are funding the Black Lives Matter movement. He is going to be protected. He's going to get off. The chances of him being convicted are astronomical. And I've seen the numbers on it. In the last 7 years, the number of police shootings by people who are both white and black, the number of policemen who get off is astronomical. I think it's 0.01% of policemen get convicted when a fatal shooting occurs at a policeman's hand. And to be fair, some of the time they're probably justified. They're probably in grave danger and they have to make that choice and take somebody's life. That happens. That is a real thing that happens. Sometimes policemen are justified. But police reform needs to happen. That we are not against that, but he's going to get off. What are we fighting against? What are we fighting for?
And I want all you lefties to think about this if you think that the movement hasn't been hijacked. Everything Shadow said is 100% correct, by the way. But the Arab Spring in Egypt was a grassroots revolution. They threw out a dictator. They started having elections, and then the U.S. State Department put in a Muslim Brotherhood cleric or something as the president of Egypt. It didn't work. They ended up having to get a new guy in there. I can't remember what his name is, but he's actually for the region, a super good leader. But the same people who hijacked that election and installed the Muslim Brotherhood dictator, the U.S. State Department has just been discovered is working hand in hand with George Soros. So the same people who hijacked that election that you thought was so horrible just hijacked your movement too. And you don't even see it. And so when you post stuff like, oh, if you ever wonder where you'd be if when Hitler was in power, what you'd be doing, or what you'd be doing during slavery. This is it. This is what you'd be doing. Okay, I'll play that game. Guess what I would be doing? Going against the grain, telling the truth no matter what you say to me. Is that what 90% of people were doing? Is that what all the people on Facebook were doing back during slavery? Were they going against the grain, or were they going along to get along? And same with Nazi Germany. 92% compliance rate in Nazi Germany to the Nazis. And you're right. You would have been a Nazi back in Nazi Germany, and guess what? It's possible that I would have been too. But as of right now, if we're going off of what I'm doing right now, which is going against the popular narrative and going against the grain and risking being called a racist in order to speak the truth, then who looks like the guy that's fighting Nazis, and who looks like the guy that's going along because they feel like they should be popular? All the people in Nazi Germany were betraying themselves. They were saying anti-Semitic things, even though they knew they weren't true, because they felt like they were morally superior because they were doing it. You're being played. Your movement has been hijacked. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, you're a coward. I still love you, but you're a coward. And you're going along to get along. And you're demonstrating your moral superiority instead of just speaking the truth.
That's a logical fallacy. That's an attack on their person.
Yep. How dare I?
Way to finish it off.
But I still know you're a coward.
Let's talk for a second about George Soros. So it was Rocky that enlightened me on George Soros. Rocky, who told you about George Soros?
The Glenn Baxter.
Was it Glenn Beck? Oh, I thought it was Dennis Prager.
Both talk about him.
Does Dennis Prager have a YouTube video about him?
I doubt it, but maybe.
On PragerU?
I don't think so, but maybe.
I'd be interested
What's
to
his
see.
name?
George Soros.
So let's talk about George Soros.
S-O-R-O-S.
George Soros is not super well known for some reason, but he's an avowed communist and funds all kinds of revolutions across
The world.
the world. Let's talk about why. That's what I want to focus on right now. The Communist Manifesto. I have read it. Been
No
alarmed.
way. No way, because if you had read it, you'd be a communist right now, because that is like scripture. You didn't feel the spirit of the communist revolution, sir?
Did you see Karl Marx in your dreams?
How
First
dare
things
you,
first,
sir?
let's talk about Karl Marx. I vehemently disagree with most everything Karl Marx says. That being said, an exceptionally brilliant mind. Very good at talking to people, and clearly very good at convincing people what they need to do, because the Communist Manifesto has been used in communist revolutions across the planet. And it's been translated time and time again into different languages. It was the pamphlet of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. The workers all read it. It has great power in convincing men to do or say what Karl Marx believed. That being said, Karl Marx says in the Communist Manifesto, when a revolution happens, the communists get on board no matter what. If there is a revolution happening, you take part in it. Because in the aftermath of the revolution, that's the time when you can install a member of the Muslim Brotherhood as president of Egypt. Or whatever it may be. When a revolution happens in Russia, the communists all get on board, and then they oust the labor unions out of power, and they seize power, the Bolsheviks. That's exactly what they did in Russia. That is a basic tenet of Marxist theory. When a revolution is happening, the communists jump on board and seize and hijack the revolution. That's the danger of a revolution. That's the danger of rioting and looting. They allow movements to be hijacked, movements to be stolen. George Soros is an avowed communist. We can conclude that he is doing that to your movement. He is sending money, pretending like he's just a part of the cause in order to hijack it for the communist revolution.
That's right. And if that's true, then who are you in that? In the revolution that took America? Who do you think you'll be in the revolution that overtook America?
Will you be part of the 90% who...
Yeah, the 90% of useful idiots who think they're morally better than everyone because they say the right thing? Or are you the person telling the truth?
Are you the person seeing and telling the truth?
Also, do we have more on the Communist Revolution? Because I have something else.
No, that was my 2 cents. More on the Communist Revolution,
You good,
Jace?
I got
You
nothing.
Something to add? P-Dog?
It's a bad idea. That's the end of that.
So all that being said, there's been a movement to defund the police.
Okay.
And there's also been a movement for President Trump to call the military in to crush this rebellion. Thoughts?
I think it's technically illegal for him to do that.
I guess there's the Insurrection Act, where if there's a violent revolution happening, which there is, he can call in the military to crush it.
So there's a loophole for a law. Well, that's surprising.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of like George Washington did with Shays Rebellion.
I think he raised a militia.
Yeah, he
He
raised a
did.
militia and it
He did.
disbanded immediately after. So
He
technically,
did. There was no standing military. I understand that, but as far as defunding the police goes, are they overfunded? Absolutely, especially here.
the fact that they get a new car every year.
And you talked about it in Payson. You know how much money they spend on cops to police 100,000 people that live in Payson?
No. 20,000 people.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes.
There's only 35 in Pleasant Grove.
And how many cops are there?
You're
in
the one who
Pleasant
looked
Grove?
it up and saw
Yeah.
it.
I think there's 36.
36 cops in Pleasant Grove.
That's just cops, not counting detectives or anything like that.
That's beat cops. That's even worse. Detectives serve a purpose. Beat cops just write tickets. They just create a police state.
For the
so
most part.
as far as defunding the police go, I don't know about completely defunding them, but significant reductions in police funding, absolutely. I'm all for it. Why?
So, I know you're listening, Orange Man. Orange Man bad. I know you're listening.
Cheeto head.
We're not on Fox News. He's probably not watching.
Mr. Trump, I know you're listening. I try and give the same respect to Mitt Romney. I can at least do it to the guy I like, even though I think he'd understand better than Mitt Romney would.
He would love it.
Yeah. So,
He's like, oh, he calls me Orange Man on his podcast.
Orange Man bad.
That's not it.
Mr. Trump, President Trump, do not call the military in. And for all I care, tell the cops to stand down. Because Americans have forgotten the price of freedom. And if we don't handle this on our own, as good American people, if we don't crush this rebellion by raising our own militias and fighting these communist revolutionaries, it's just going to happen again. We're going to let it happen over and over and over and over again. I think the president should stand down, say this is a problem for the American people to solve. Defense of your property is your job. I think you should tell the police to stand down. And I know he doesn't have any power to do so, and that it's going to take the governors, and it'll never happen. But just think about it. If the cops all took off their badges and joined the militia that was out to crush the rebellion, the revolution, what would be so bad about that? If we fought for our own freedom, if we fought for what we know is right, if we protected our own cities. You know who's been known to raise militias in the past and seems to not ever stage revolutions afterwards, even though they had probably a right to? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That's true.
Was there were people making laws to exterminate Mormons, and they raised a militia that would rival
United States
at least be
military.
able to take the state of Illinois. Who knows? Maybe be able to take the entire country.
And when called upon by the country that they were loyal to, they were able to raise a militia
Again.
that marched to Mexico and won battles without firing a shot because they were so strong. And there were so many of them. And it was so frightening because they were patriots and they raised a militia when they were called upon.
So why can't Donald Trump step back, say, why don't you guys handle this? All the governors step back, than all the police who, I agree, we need a police force. But it does not have to be as big as it is. We could cut it by 80% if you ask me. However, and all you cops out there being like, well, do you know how many crimes would go unpunished? What crimes? Speeding? What about graffiti? Is that the cop's job or is it the business owner's job? It's the business owner's job to protect his own property. What crimes are you protecting us from? It's not your job to protect us anyways. It's your job to prosecute crime. That's it. And you don't even do that good of a job at that.
Getting away with crimes is
Yeah.
very common.
Yeah, common. Contrary to what people would have you believe, my friend just got robbed. 30 grand. He knows who did it. They still haven't caught the guy.
If he knows who did it, how didn't they catch the guy?
They don't have evidence, hard evidence, but he knows who did it. All they'd have to do is bring him in for interrogation and they'd get him. You're not protecting us. You are not protecting us. It's our job to protect ourselves. Why can't the church raise a militia to fight these people in Salt Lake City? Why can't the Baptist church fight these people in the South? Why can't, I don't know, the Hippie Foundation in California fight these people in California?
The Hippie Foundation?
Of all the things in California.
Why?
Sorry, it's Rocky's first day alive.
That was racist against Californians. You're not all hippies. I know. I was a joke, okay?
Are you sure that was a joke?
No, I got some cousins in California. They could lead a militia. They could fight. They're tough dudes. I don't get why we're not taking more personal responsibility for this. One side is saying, oh, save us cops, and other side is saying, defund the cops. Why don't both sides say, yeah, defund the cops. Now it's you and me. We still have the majority. We still have the most well-armed majority for sure because we believe in guns. And, you know, why can't we do this ourselves? It would be easy. It might get violent. People would probably die. But people are dying already. Ask David Dorn. If there had been a militia around that pawn shop, do you think David Dorn would have died? Do you think a 73-year-old man would have had to die, not see his grandkids? Maybe I would have had to die, but it's kind of my job as the 30-year-old man, right? To die protecting my home. Once you're old, you're not expected to do that crap anymore.
You did your time.
You did your time.
He did his time as a police officer.
Yeah, exactly. So what?
He's just trying to care for his family.
What do you guys think? Are we coddled in this country?
I am going to throw this out here.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, this is potentially the most radical of the things you've ever heard on the podcast, but also straight out of the Constitution.
Yep.
Not that radical.
Yep.
Like, it sounds
It's
crazy.
radical by today's standards.
Yeah, exactly.
sure.
It sounds like crazy talk. Raising a militia to defend our homes and our people. That's exactly what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they wrote the Constitution.
That is why we have the right to bear arms against these types of upraisings.
Mr. Trump, keep that military of yours focused on China and Russia. Don't let them come here and take us over because that's your job. However, the rest is up to us. Stay the hell out of our cities.
And let the American people
Are we taking too long, wives? We're getting the scoff from the wives. What are we at?
I don't know. I can't see it. Oh, 55 minutes.
Pretty solid.
We got like another hour, babe.
Yeah, we're going strong.
So, there you have it. Don't let the government do what you're supposed to be doing. Protect your own stuff. And I don't know how to go about it. I don't know how to organize a militia. I don't know what I'd do.
So let us know what you would do and
maybe,
where we're wrong.
You know?
Let's start with this. I dibs being general of our militia.
I
Rocky,
know.
will you
Yeah, I'm
be
not
my
part of that
lieutenant?
militia.
Sure.
Jason, will you be my other lieutenant?
I know this for
I'm the
Will
general.
you be my third lieutenant?
I'll be a captain. I know my worth.
I
All
know
right. Rocky,
for sure.
Pepper's a captain under you.
Is that how the ranking goes? I don't even know how the ranking goes.
Yeah,
Oh,
me
this is
either,
my
for being
militia. It
honest.
goes however I want it to.
I don't know.
Okay.
Your payment is learning the price of freedom.
I don't know what to do about riots in Salt Lake City because I don't live there. But I know that if they come to Payson, it's going to be a bloody affair for the Antifa fellas. And if it comes back to Salt Lake, who's to say I won't drive up there and see if I can help out? But
I know what happened at the riots in Provo. They didn't riot. They had a peaceful protest, and it was great.
They're still having a peaceful protest.
maybe they're
There's
actually,
a peaceful protest march today in Salt Lake, so it seems like they're going in the right
they're
direction.
actually for civil rights instead of for.
They weren't to begin with.
I know.
It is quickly being hijacked.
So, okay, we promise hopefully not to talk about this next week because it's draining my spirit.
Yeah.
I think
We'll
it
try
might
and
be
do
time for the
something.
Book of Mormon next week,
I was thinking
unless you got something else.
we'll talk about that after.
Okay. We'll talk about it after.
All right, but we will do a Book of Mormon episode sometime this month. Know
Soon.
that.
Okay.
All right.
Consider that issue pushed. I'm Shadow.
Issue pushed. I'm Rocky.
I'm Jace.
And God bless y'all. Have a
This
great
is
week.
Danite Radio.
Leave a
Radio for the
comment.
counter revolution. It will be swift. It will be relentless. You don't want to mess with me, Antifa.
He is a mean fighter, folks.
Yeah,
A
he
mean
doesn't
fighter.
fight fair. He'll kick you in the head.
That's right. I'll kick you right in the testes. And I got a tough old wife behind me, too.
His wife's behind him, flexing her muscles and practicing her kicks.
That's right. All right. Love you guys. Thanks
All
for
right.
listening.
Have a great week and God bless.